Hello, library patrons. Welcome to the first episode of Pop Culture Den, where your Aurora Public Library librarians talk about some pretty cool media in the world and analyze it. So I'm Elizabeth, and this is Stacy, and we're here to talk about a game called Coffee Talk. Stacy, how'd you find out about Coffee Talk?
I was randomly looking on the PlayStation 4 for some new video games to play, and it just kind of popped up.
Excellent. I feel like I was just kind of looking for random video games too on a review site or something, and I found this cool little game. It's not a bartending game quite. You run a coffee shop, so you serve coffee to people. How would you describe it genre-wise?
I think my initial reaction was kind of a visual novel.
Mm-hmm. That would make sense.
Mostly like each character has their own story.
Mm-hmm. That does make sense. It is like a visual novel in that way. You mostly just talk to people and find out their stories. And then depending on the coffee you serve them, if you get their orders right or not, then you can either get their perfect ending or their bad ending. Mm-hmm. Things could either end really well for them or really badly, depending on whether their coffee order was just right, which, you know, I find really relatable, personally. I get that. Some days you go in and you get a bad coffee order, and there's your day. There just went. Off with the wind. What can you do?
I will agree to that.
Absolutely.
When you first started Coffee Talk, because this is the second time you've played it?
It is, actually. So I didn't play it all the way through again for this. I just played through a couple of the moments that I remembered as significant, so I could refresh myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I completed Coffee Talk a couple months ago. I feel like in the winter. I actually did play the game on a rainy day, which is cool for this particular game because it is set in Seattle, and every single day during the course of the game it rains. So it was a really fun day to play it while it was raining outside.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I just sort of sat there and I'm like, I'm home from work. I'm going to make coffee. And I tried. I said I'm going to make latte art. And I tried. And I don't know how I did on the latte art. But it's a comfort food game though, for me. It's a very fun game because I played it for a couple weeks. There's a story mode and then there's the endless mode, which you can unlock. And so I played it for a while just in endless mode where you make coffee for people just over and over as they come in. It's kind of ritualistic. It's nice. How about you? When did you first play this game? Because this is your first time playing, right?
Yeah. So I picked it up, I want to say a week after the stay-at-home closure started.
Oh, wow, nice.
So it was kind of my therapeutic game that I wasn't talking to people. And it kind of got me to get out of my head for a little bit and just kind of like focus on other people's stories and other people's lives. So it was very refreshing, and it came to me at a time that I needed it a lot.
That sounds right. That makes sense. Oh my goodness. This would be a good game to play in the middle of a super, super stressful time.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. This is a well-suited game for that. It's like, here, we're going to give you a story, but it's not a very stressful story. Nothing explodes, no one dies. All you have to do is make that person a mochaccino. That's all.
Their stories.
And get their stories. Oh, and we've forgotten one very important part of this game. You're not actually serving human beings. You're serving werewolves, elves, vampires, mermaids, right? There's a mermaid. And
yes,
cat people and orcs.
Alien.
So it's a fantasy world. Yeah, which is why I think I picked it up in the first place, because I was like, oh, yes, fantasy world coffee. Oh, yes, I need to see what the vampire orders for coffee.
Right.
It was not blood.
I did not know that it was a urban fantasy until I
started.
Oh,
you didn't? You just bought it because it was coffee.
Yeah, no, I bought it for coffee.
Nice. I can respect that. And you're over there like, I need a relaxing game. This fits the bill.
Yeah. And like all I knew is I like started it, and it started off in Seattle, and I was like, okay. And then an elf and a succubus come in, and I'm like, what?
You're like, this is different. Oh, good. About the relationship problems here. That's fun.
Mm-hmm. So was your reaction the same, like the second time that you played it to the first time? Kind of like?
It was interesting. I feel like the first time I played it, I was a little bit, it didn't, I'm trying to figure out how to put this. I wasn't necessarily more critical, but I was still trying to figure out what kind of game it was. So I was a little surprised at some of the writing in the story. It didn't always feel, I didn't know whether or not it was going to tackle really difficult issues starting right out of the gate, or if it was going to make this full fantasy world where it's like, no, this has no relation at all to modern day Seattle. And so I was picking up on a lot more of the writing quirks because I was trying to figure out what kind of game I was playing. And I feel like the second time around, I was like, no, I know what to expect. So I can sort of accept this game on its own terms, which was nice.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
It was my first time playing, so I totally went in blind and I didn't know what to expect at all.
And did it match your expectations or no?
Yes, the latte art was a lot harder than I was prepared for.
Oh my gosh, the latte art. Let's talk about the latte art. So there's an optional thing in the game where you can make latte art and it's not actually, you're not graded on it. What did your latte art turn out looking like? Are you a latte art master? It was really hard to make because I think we were both playing on controllers. So we didn't have a lot of precision available.
Yeah, I thought that you were on PC and I was like, Elizabeth is doing so much better than me.
I was not on PC.
Triggers and analog sticks.
Meanwhile, I was over there going, all I want in this world is to draw one latte art, just one. And then I drew it and I'm like, okay, we're done now. We did the latte art, we're done. So let me show you my latte art. I think you'll like it. Here we go. It is not the cat. But it is a cat.
I mean, it definitely looks cat-like.
Good. That was the goal. That was definitely the goal.
Got some ears and some whiskers.
We do.
A tail?
No, not really. Just kind of, you know, the sun. I will accept it as a tail. Maybe this is like a lying down cat and that's its body and its face is looking up at you like this. This is one of those things where I wanted to put a heart over its head and that didn't happen. And so I was like, okay, it's the sun. And I walked away because if I'd kept going, I would have messed up the beautiful coffee cat that I had going on right here. So this is my best latte art that I managed in the game with all of these pour milk etch and invert tools. How about you? What did you have latte art wise?
I went a little bit more abstract and I actually thought that I did very good until I looked at these later and I don't know what they are.
I want to see though.
Here's my first one.
Ooh.
I call it green matcha bird.
No, I can tell it's a bird. It's got like the beak.
Yeah. It's the beak, the neck, the body. That was my first one. I did like 7 or 8, but I'm only gonna show you the 3 that actually look like things.
That's fair. Okay. That definitely looks like a bird.
So a lot of them ended up being birds, which
I can respect that.
I'm not a big fan of birds. I don't know why that happened.
I'm a big fan of birds. They're chill.
It is a person jumping.
Jumping. A person jumping.
Or flying.
Or flying. Okay. Flying, so, I can see it.
Instead of making the person out of the cream and the milk, I made the person an etching inside of the cream.
Ooh, we're using negative space. We're getting fancy up in here. All right.
It's a person jumping and or / flying into a coffee void.
A coffee void.
And that is my favorite one.
Excellent. I can see why.
And then I have a third one. Let's see.
Okay.
Pull that one up. Any luck?
Ah. Okay. This one looks cool. I can see it. It's got, okay, so it kind of looks like got like a little screaming duck attacking the wind.
You know, like you do.
Is that what it is? Did I guess wrong?
No.
I guessed wrong.
I kind of forgot what this one was supposed to be. I went very abstract.
I like it though. I like it. It's got kind of like this look of furious mallard duck happening.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They all look like birds to me, except for the one of the person.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair.
Screaming duck.
All right.
Kind of reminds me of something out of Courage, but
Hey, that's okay. Sometimes you just need something out of Courage the Cowardly Dog. It's all good. We'll be talking about that one later in another episode, I think. But yes, so please, library patrons, let us know who has the best art. It's very important to us.
You've got cats, birds, and people.
Cats, and people, you got some options. Something for everybody, unless you like dogs. I don't think either of us drew dogs.
No. All my birds were accidents, so
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're sort of, the coffee didn't go that way.
yeah.
Dogs shouldn't drink coffee anymore.
The latte art, you don't make the art makes itself, pretty much.
Pretty much. So the controls on that one are squirrely, and I've definitely seen art that other people have done that's like, look, it's the moon, and look, it's a beautiful clover, and I'm just happy that I got some cat ears. That was the extent of my ambitions, and I succeeded.
I am very happy with
However, for the first time you serve the latte art, this elf that you're serving it to tells you it sucks, regardless of how long you spent on it or what it looks like, which is just rude, right? So let's talk about the characters in this story, because we're talking about the rude elf, and I have feelings about the rude elf. But we should probably talk about the genre first. Should we talk about the genre first?
We can talk about either of them.
Exciting. Okay.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about the people first, since we're already talking about the elf?
Sure, let's talk about the people.
Like the most linear way to go.
He's the most Seattle. Like, he's got like the scarf. He wants to be a photographer. He's like kind of wearing clothes that are fashionable yet hipster. He's the hipster elf. I could imagine running into hipster elf in Seattle.
I could see that. I haven't been to Seattle, but I guess if I think of what Seattle is, that is...
He's kind of the Seattle stereotype happening over there. Like, theoretically, you could run into all of these people, but he's the hipster stereotype happening. So who is your favorite? I'm trying to think. So we have Freya, who's the artist, the writer.
The writer. We've got Georgie. Is it Georgie?
Georgie the cop, yeah. I think Georgie. We've got Gala the werewolf and Hyde the vampire.
Myrtle the orc.
Oh yeah, the orc is Myrtle. What was the mermaid's name again?
Aqua.
Hey, nice. We're just gonna lean into it. It's Aqua. Okay. And then Rachel was for the cat. I remember that.
Yeah, Rachel.
And then I think we've covered all the characters. So there's a nice little collection of people wandering in and out. Oh yeah, and Neil the alien. We mentioned him earlier. So we've got a nice little collection of people wandering in and out of our coffee shop with our barista. And then our barista, of course. What do we feel of our barista? This is one of those games where you don't get dialogue options. So your person says what they say, and you're like, I'm on board, or I'm not on board. So what do we think of the barista?
So for me, I wasn't a big fan of the barista, solely because when I started it, I wanted to play a character that was more to me. But because there were no dialogue options, everything she said was not what I would have said.
That's fair.
So for me, the barista felt very cold and distant, and I know from my experience working with people that I would not respond the same way. So
they're like, no, but I'm nice. No.
So that kind of took me out of the immersion a little bit. But I also understand that because I was trying to project myself onto a character that I couldn't really project myself onto, like.
Well, that's definitely the tendency with games like this, though, right? Like, you want to project yourself onto the main character. For me, I was picturing the barista as a guy. I wonder if that is why I reacted differently to the barista, because I was playing and I'm like, oh, we're staying really professional. We're trying to maintain that professional boundary between my life and the customer's life. We're just trying to stay detached because everybody's bringing me their drama. And I'm like, thank you very much. Here's your receipt for your coffee. I appreciate it. So, yes, Merlin agrees with me. See? Leave your drama at the door. That's Merlin's philosophy. You could hear it in his meow. Absolutely. So yeah, I liked the barista, but I definitely agree that there was definitely that coolness and that detachedness. So if your way of interacting with people is enthusiasm, that would make it tough to like the barista. I kind of like the barista's sarcasm, maybe? Is that the word I want? Sass is wrong. Sarcasm, maybe. Like, or no, just this very dry sense of humor. That's what I want. Like, the one that seems closest to the barista is Freya, the writer. And there's very much this dynamic between them of, oh, not again. Don't tell me you stayed up all night working on a writing project again. So what did you think of Freya?
Freya, I feel like I kind of go back and forth between liking Freya and then not disliking Freya, but not really caring about Freya.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't know. She just kind of sits with you and she listens to people's stories. At least as far as I got, she doesn't really have her own story so far. But on the other hand, like the way that she does interact with people and the way that she writes her stories feels very similar to me.
Oh, nice. Really?
So I kind of like I understood her as a character. I understood her more than Barista.
Is that what you do? You go to Starbucks and you eavesdrop for your stories?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
100%? Okay, excellent. I look forward to reading The Adventures of Stacy at Starbucks in a future novel someday. That sounds exciting.
That's what I'll title it.
I liked Freya okay, but it was funny because I was over there like, Freya, quit being nosy into these people's lives. Quit asking them such personal, invasive questions. And then I'm like, wait, but this entire game is all based around me eavesdropping on the patrons and figuring out what's going on in their lives while I serve them coffee. Yeah. So I'm a hypocrite. Hi, Freya. We're both playing this game. So that was kind of fun.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I liked Freya eventually. She had a very rolling her eyes vibe, which, that works. I think my favorite character, though, was Gala the werewolf. So good.
I can see that. I like that.
Yeah, Gala was good. I like him. So the whole thing with the werewolf in this game is they did definitely question a little bit of the werewolf vampire thing. And so Gala's just a nurse. Right, that's his whole thing, is that he works in the medical profession. And so there's a lot of stereotypes against werewolves he has to work to overcome. But really, he's just this sort of gentle, laid back, living his life kind of guy. So I liked him. I thought he was good. Who did you like the best out of all of the characters?
Myrtle?
I can see that. Myrtle's got that whole like stoic business-like personality.
Yeah, but still like somehow staying down to earth. Like the first time you see Myrtle, she literally comes in, gets on her phone, she's reading a book, and then she just leaves and she doesn't talk to anybody. And
I'm like, yes, the most relatable patron in this entire coffee shop. This is how I act in coffee shops. I get my coffee, I drink my coffee, I leave. I do not give therapy to the anxious succubus who is wondering what to do about her boyfriend, which is what the vampire is overdoing in the corner. That was funsies. I did like Hyde. I like this exhausted supermodel who just sort of comes in and is like, yeah, they have me be a supermodel because I make everyone look young. It's a job. I'm here to see my bestie, and like that's what it is, and I'm gonna give you a hard time about serving me blood even though I know you can't. Okay, thanks. I'll just take the coffee.
Yeah, I like Hyde. I think the first Hyde came in, I didn't really care about him because he was like, this is the place you brought me to, and I was like,
he started out so condescending. People give you a hard time for your coffee shop, and I got all protective. I was like, excuse you, this is my coffee shop. This is a cool place. Excuse you.
Very hard.
You are a guest in my coffee shop, which isn't how commerce works at all, actually. Like, they are very much customers. But since it was a game, I was like, no. This is my coffee shop. You sit down, you enjoy the coffee. This is the best coffee shop anywhere.
But definitely once he starts opening up, like, he's fun to listen to. And his friendship with Gala is very fun to watch.
Ah, yes. The friendship with Gala. Yeah, they're dating, aren't they? We agree on this. They're dating. So there's definitely that implied relationship between Gala and Hyde. I find it interesting that the game doesn't actually show you much of the developing relationships between characters, but there's those little slides at the end that'll fill you in on what happens to everyone, because that kind of makes sense. Because you're not going to be sitting in front of like the front of Starbucks having an in-depth conversation about like, by the way, we're dating. That's generally not something people do.
Right.
It's kind of an interesting game. I don't want to call it a visual novel.
Yeah.
I kind of want it to be its own genre, the serving drinks to people while listening to their problems genre. But I can only think of about 3 or 4 games in this genre. So there's Valhalla and Nirvana, the sequel coming out. And that's about being a bartender in this cyberpunk world. And then there's Red Strings Club, which is about being a bartender in a cyberpunk world. And then there's Necrobarista, which is about being a barista, but, you know, undead. So this is kind of, we've got a 50-50 split between coffee and bars, but they've all got that drink serving element. I don't know, what would you call those? Are we sticking with visual novel as the genre?
There's definitely a novel aspect in the fact that we can't pick dialogue.
Right.
Like, but it's not just like watching something, because you are invested, you're a part of their lives, you're impacting them just through making coffee. I don't know.
The official genre that it gets categorized under in the Steam store page, which is not where either of us bought the game. I think it's classified as casual, which isn't a genre. It's just an adjective. So I don't know what to do with that information, but I will take it. So yes, we have casual.
Casual. I almost feel like, I mean, whatever genre it is, whether it's casual or its own thing, it definitely feels like a new genre. Like, I'm assuming Valhalla and the Red Strings Club and everything is relatively within the past few years.
Within the last 10? Valhalla was older. Red Strings Club was a couple years back.
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of a newish genre, I guess. Why do you think we want that? Why do you think we want an entire genre of games where we just sit and give drinks to people and listen to them talk about their problems?
I feel like for me, it's a empathetic kind of thing. Like, I like to listen to people and I like to hear their stories and I like to help people. So it's, I don't know. And again, I picked it up during the quarantine stay-at-home orders. So to finally like feel like I was listening to someone else's story instead of worrying about myself, it was very needed.
Okay, that's interesting. I think you might be onto something there, because I don't know. Oh gosh, there's this article saying that, you know, fight, flight, freeze as stress reactions, just the general, if you have a stress reaction, you're going to fight, flight, or freeze. Okay. There's actually a train of thought where there's actually a separate, there's 2 other responses, which is tend and befriend when you're looking at adrenaline responses and ways of wanting to interact with gaming. So this doesn't quite react to stress reactors. When they're looking at fight or flight, they're looking at, okay, what kind of game can we make to create that artificial sense of danger within the player? And, oh geez, I'm gonna have to look up the article. There recently, about 5 years ago, there came out an article that was talking about the idea of games, not as a stressful place, but as a place to sort of get rid of that stress and relax. So it's sort of a tend and befriend thing where your emphasis is on sort of entering a world where you don't have to stress, where you feel safe instead of in danger, and where instead of being competitive against people, you can have the idea that you're taking care of them. So that might be part of why this is more popular.
Sounds like an interesting article.
It is. I will link it somewhere in the little thing. There will be a link. I point downward toward the comments. Yes, links will happen. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. So I imagine that ties in.
One of the challenges are that they don't tell you how to make most of the coffee.
That's true. That's a valid point. It's not like you're just plugging in numbers. Sometimes you have to figure it out.
Yeah, they're like, I want this type of chai, and then I have to be like,
Also, that chai tea recipe. What was the deal with that chai tea recipe? I don't know much about chai tea, but that was ridiculous. They're like, what 3 ingredients make chai tea? And I'm like, what? They have to be in a specific order? What? That's not fair.
They're like, it's like chai tea with spices, and I was like, what spices do I have for this? And I just kept messing it up, and then like I would create other drinks on accident and just be like, it would come up with a real fancy name, and I'm like, that's cool, but it's not. Darn.
This is what we're working with. This isn't a thing. And like, okay, isn't there cardamom in chai tea? Isn't that a thing?
I don't know anything about chai tea.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So if you're going to make chai tea, I know everybody wants to know. We're having a recipe moment. If you want to make chai tea, just easy masala chai recipe from Minimalist Baker. You're going to need in your life, for this one, some coconut milk. But I don't imagine you have to have that. But I'm looking at this, and there's like some star anise in here, and there's some like, there's definitely cardamom. There is cardamom. There's cloves, and there's ginger, and there's cinnamon, and sugar as well to taste. And there are 2 of those spices in this game. So I'm over there like, where's the cardamom? The cardamom isn't here. I don't have cardamom. This is definitely white people masala chai tea. I don't know what to do with this information, but I made it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. A very basic, I don't know. If you only get 3 ingredients, then you gotta.
It's the kind of chai. That's what you make in the game. You make kind of chai.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Like, that's one of the limits of making it a game with only a certain number of spices. They couldn't include everything because that would kind of be, okay, you only use this in one recipe. That wouldn't work.
Right.
So you mix and match all of the different ingredients for different things. And that makes sense.
I mean, yeah. It would make the game so much more complex, but like not in a good way if they added everything. Like, it's already hard enough finding the 3 basic ingredients for stuff.
And the order matters, right? You can't, it matters whether you put cinnamon in front of ginger or ginger in front of cinnamon.
That's always what trips me up. Is figuring out, I can get the base and then it's the 2 other ingredients. I'm like, which one comes first and which one comes second?
Fair. Honestly, fair. We've talked about the characters, we've talked about the drinks and the mechanics and the genre. What do we think about the themes that this game actually sort of covers?
There's so many.
There's so many. That is a fair point. This game tries to cover a lot. We get what? We get racism, we get oppression, we get dietary concerns, which I guess makes sense, coffee shop. We get natural versus pharmaceutical cures for various conditions, which was a curveball. We get dating. We get like an entire conversation with an alien about how to use Tinder. So that's a thing. What else do we have in this game as far as themes?
I feel like we've already talked kind of sort of about the LGBTQ representation.
Yeah, with Gala and Hyde.
I wouldn't say it's that big of a spoiler because nothing happens.
Because nothing happens. This is just what we think in our hearts.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Issues, they bring up LGBTQ issues, kind of. Not even issues. They just bring up characters that you're like, I feel like...
There's sort of this ambiguity that's left. If you aren't playing on the PlayStation 4, for instance, you don't get that achievement for Gala and for Hyde. So you might be left questioning if you didn't get that perfect ending, whether or not they were dating.
So, I don't know. I feel like they bring up characters that I feel like this is a topic that should be addressed more because clearly they were aiming for something, hence the trophy, but they didn't really address it.
Yeah, there's a line between subtlety and not addressing it at all. And so I would have been curious to see that addressed. It would have been very easy to toss in a line of dialogue. They talk about how Hyde was married before. So it would have been easy for that to get addressed anywhere in the dialogue. But yeah, maybe he'd married a woman at one point. Maybe he dated men. That could have come up. You could have casual people coming in to flirt in that sort of way. But yeah.
I feel like they went for so many topics, but they don't quite hit any of them as in depth as I want them to. I would rather they have picked a few topics that are prevalent to right now or when the game was made and kind of just address those. So if they're going to be
good. It's definitely an extremely ambitious game.
Yeah, which isn't a bad thing.
Which isn't a bad thing at all. I'm wondering how I'll feel about it if I visit it several years from now. If I'll think that it did a good job capturing a snapshot of just hi, we're juggling a lot of things right now that's happening in the world at large. Because we definitely have a lot of scattered focus happening right now with a lot of issues that we have to pay attention to and a lot of things happening in the world all at once. Or if I'm going to return to it and still wish that it had gone a little more in depth.
Right. I feel like for right now, me playing it right now, I wish they had gone more in depth because I would rather, I don't know, address the issues that are most prevalent. But I could see in a few years picking it up and being like, oh, in 2019, 2020, these are the topics that were coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like coming back to it years after it's released would give a really good insight to what is happening.
I definitely see what you mean. That makes sense.
But right now it just doesn't feel like, it feels like it's too current right now for like not going in depth on the stuff. Feels like it makes it feel like it's lacking.
I can totally see that. And I do wish, this is one of those games when I finished it, I wanted it to be longer.
Mm-hmm.
So if they ever make a Coffee Talk 2, I'm still going to play it. And I'm going to be like, please address issues more deeply. Mm-hmm. Also, please, show me Gala and Hyde and have them be happy. And like address some of the issues. And it would be kind of cool to see our barista. I know that's ridiculous, but for reasons, I would like to see our barista at some point in the plot.
I'm interested. I feel like no matter what our barista looks like, we're going to be disappointed somehow.
That's fair, but I'm really curious to see if you or if anyone watching this ends up playing to the end of the game. I'm really interested to see what you think about it. Because if you play the game perfect, if you eventually get to the part where you play the game perfect, you're gonna get a little bonus ending, and it's fun.
I haven't beat it, so I don't know. I can't say anything.
Secrets. But I think that's a good spot for us to end our video, is on secrets. So if you're intrigued, you should definitely check out Coffee Talk. If you have thoughts about urban fantasy as a genre, oh shoot, we could have had an entire conversation about this game's place in urban fantasy as a genre. I guess we'll do that next time. If you have thoughts about urban fantasy as a genre or any of that, then let us know. And thanks for tuning in to Pop Culture Den. Do you have any other thoughts before we sign off, Stacy?
Not particularly. I highly recommend it, despite that hit.
I do recommend it. So this isn't the game that you're going to go to for your deep commentary necessarily, but it is a great game if you would just like to serve chai tea to an orc. Which who doesn't want to serve chai tea to an orc?
Exactly.
This is the dream.
And if you're looking for relaxing games, especially right now where you need that therapeutic
no kidding.
feeling, this is one that's going to get you.
This is a perfect game for that.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye, everyone. Thanks for talking with me, Stacy. Bye.
Bye.